Hello everyone, welcome back to a new video. So today I want to pour the Terra Flora technique and I want to use different colors. So I'm using the Artline Honey, it's a medium viscosity resin, and I let this resin sit for a little bit, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes before I started mixing my colors. So I'm using 30 grams of resin in 3 cups, and I will be changing 1 cup because I will use round about 40 grams for my white. So I'm just dividing my resin. And actually, I cannot tell you exactly how much resin I used because I will still have some left over. And this is a video which comes on Saturday because I made a beautiful flower with my leftover resin. So stay tuned about it because it really turned out very gorgeous. Anyway, so I have here in each cup 30 grams of resin in the small cups, and I start mixing my colors. I'm using here a metal powder and it's the ruby red from Etta Art. I was a little bit careful not using too much of it because I didn't want to that it takes over, and the same with my gold. So I also used some gold. The gold is from Colorberry. And then for my next color, I'm using the Interference Pearl. I also don't add too much of it. And for my white, I'm using the Pigment Drops. And now I need to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 drops on my 40 grams of resin in this bigger cup. Yeah, I used a bigger cup for my white because then it's easier to handle. The fuller your cup, the more difficult it's to pour out of the cup. Otherwise, it's just dripping all over. And yeah, it's always best, that you never fill your cups too full when you want to pour a certain pattern. So like you are seeing now, I'm just mixing my colors. I make sure that they are very, very well mixed, that I don't have any particles in my resin piece because this doesn't look nice. And look at this gorgeous red. I just love the ruby red because, yeah, it's a real dark red or a real red, and it's also perfect for Christmas. You don't get these red tones so much. There are only a few companies that have really such a gorgeous red, and Etta Art is one of the companies. So anyway, I'm stirring my resin or my colors a final time before I start pouring. I always make sure that I really stir it very well. But it also happens sometimes to me that I have some of these particles still in my resin piece because then I was not paying too much attention. So better mix a little bit more than too less. Anyway, so now how I'm doing always with the Terra Flora technique, I'm using clear resin and I'm pouring this into my mold so that the bottom of the mold is covered. I think for this pour, like I said, I'm not sure how much I actually used, but I guess I used round about 360 grams of resin because my mold is also not full. And yeah, so I used my leftover, which was still in my jar, to do another pour. Anyway, I'm using here the Geode tray mold from Molds and Shapes, and it's the M size. Really love and adore these molds from Molds and Shapes, and yeah, the round Geode mold is one of my very favorite, all-time favorite molds. And I guess you recently see it that I discovered it again, and I'm pouring a lot more in this mold design. So for my alcohol inks, I decided also to use a little bit of the Carrot Sun from Colorberry to my white, because I almost forgot it. So anyway, before I start with my resin ink or alcohol ink, no, I used resin ink, I still need to stir this into my white so I have more a cream or an off-white, which I recently like very, very much. So this is done, and now I'm using Onyx, and it's a resin ink from Octopus. As you see, I try to drop it very carefully, and I still have some negative space. And now I'm stirring this a little bit so that it's a little bit not like a blob. You see it there. And I'm of course hoping that my piece is not going to get too dark. You never know. If you try something a little bit different, like I said, you never know what you're going to achieve. This time I didn't put clear resin on top of my resin ink. So I started straight away with my red, and I'm pouring the spiral. And like I said, I'm not using all the red. I really try to be careful. I just make a final loop here, and I'm hoping that I didn't use too much, because these colors sometimes tend to take over. So now the same with my gold. I also try to be careful with my gold, and probably I'm not using all the gold I've mixed. So also with the gold, I'm quite careful, because I think the gold takes easier over than a silver. I did a lot of silver pours in this technique, and silver is perfect. So now there's my interference pearl, and I also did my spiral there. And now I'm taking my white mixture with the Carrot Sun, and yeah, I gave it a little bit of a stir again, and this time I'm pouring this rather thick, and the spiral is quite narrow, as you can see. So I'm very curious how this is gonna turn out. I just thought I use a little bit different colors, maybe not so bright colors as I did in my previous pour, just to see what effects I can achieve. And now I'm taking my clear resin and I'm filling up my mold a little bit. So like I said, there was some left over, but I had it in a different jar because I didn't want it to get too hot, and that's why I put it into a different jar. You see it in my Saturday's video. Anyway, it looks a little bit strange now, and I'm really hoping that I will achieve some nice effects. But you can already see the resin is doing something, it's moving. And I also hope that, you know, what you see now in the center, in the bottom or on the bottom of the mold, I hope that this also still creates some nice effects. So now I'm searching my black leaves, because you have those silver or those golden leaves, and you can stir them into resin and it gives nice effects. I was looking for my black color, so I can use this for my center, and here I'm using a big stick and just try to loosen this up, and it goes quite well. I always adored those artists in the past who just put such a leaf into the center of a mold and just stirring this nicely up and had a beautiful center. And for a long time I didn't have these sheets, but now I also have those sheets and I really enjoy using this. So, and I'm still fiddling a little bit around with my black leaf, and then just a quick torch, and then I can let the resin do whatever it needs to do, but you can really see it's doing something. It's already, yeah, making nice patterns. So, and now you see the time lapse, and I sometimes carefully use a little bit the heat gun so that I'm helping a little bit more the resin to close up. You see it there, because I was not sure if maybe the leaves, are hindering. Are you saying hindering or are stopping that my center closes up? But yeah, you see now in this little bit in this part of the video, just after I stopped doing my time lapse, that the center didn't close up completely, but I have my black sheets in there, so I don't mind too much. But look at the effects the resin has already created. It's very beautiful, and I'm hoping that, yeah, the other side, it's not too dark, because I dropped, I don't know how many drops of the black of the onyx on my resin, so I'm not sure how dark it is gonna be. And this is, yeah, a challenge, and this is also why I'm so curious. I let my piece cure for 20 hours, and now I can demold, and I'm very curious. I love the red, you know, and I love the black hints. You cannot see too much of the gold except from the center, so I'm curious here. And now look at this. I didn't expect so much white, if I'm honest, but I love the effect, because look at the center, this beautiful sort of web effect. Okay, the very center is not close, but like I said, I don't mind, because I have the rim from the black and I have the black sheets. But look at all the natural effects at the edge. I'm very happy about it. And this is now the final result. And look at this. I'm so happy with this. And I think this effect matches so well a geode mold. I really love this. I love the red hints. Sometimes you see a little bit of gold. I'm very happy that the other colors didn't take over too much. And yeah, I just wonder what you think, if you like this pour. And yeah, I'm looking forward to your comments, and see you hopefully for my next video with the leftover resin. So anyway, take care guys. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.